Once upon a time, a hard-working merchant lived near the seashore. Every day, he traveled to the coast to buy salt, loading it onto his loyal but sometimes stubborn donkey. Together, they walked the same long road home, crossing the same shallow river along the way. One afternoon, after loading the donkey with extra bags of salt, the merchant began the journey back. When they reached the river, the donkey stepped in carefully, as he always did. But halfway across, his hoof slipped on a wet stone, and he fell into the water with a loud splash. The merchant rushed to pull him up. When the donkey finally stood, the merchant realized that much of the salt had dissolved in the water. The load was now much lighter. The donkey, feeling relieved, walked cheerfully the rest of the way home. The next morning, they returned to the seashore for another load. This time, the donkey remembered how easy the journey became after falling into the water. So when they reached the river again, he pretended to lose his balance and dropped himself into the water on purpose. Once again, the salt melted away. The merchant quickly understood what the donkey was doing. He became angry not because the donkey fell, but because the donkey tried to avoid his work. Without saying a word, he turned around and marched back to the seashore. There, instead of salt, the merchant loaded the donkey with 2 heavy baskets filled with dry sponges. The donkey, thinking he had outsmarted his master again, felt pleased. But when they reached the river and the donkey repeated his trick, everything changed. The moment he fell into the water, the sponges soaked up the river water and became extremely heavy, much heavier than the salt had ever been. When the donkey stood up, he realized his mistake. His legs shook under the weight. The walk home was long, slow, and painful. Step by step, he dragged himself forward, regretting his foolishness. From that day on, the donkey never tried the same trick again. He learned that shortcuts do not always make life easier, and what works once may not work the next time. In life, shortcuts and quick fixes might seem like an easy way to get what you want, just like the donkey thought falling into the river would make his work easier. But what works once may not work again, and sometimes it can make things much worse. In today's world, this can apply to work, school, or even personal relationships. Skipping steps, cutting corners, or trying to take advantage of situations may bring temporary relief, but it can lead to bigger problems later. The story reminds us to think carefully about our actions, take responsibility, and understand that hard work, patience, and smart choices are usually the safest path to success.